Hello everyone, this is TrueBuggers back into another video, and today I'm going to discuss about floor 12 for version 5.4 Genshin. About previous videos that I've been missing out on, previous patches to be exact. I have not been motivated, nor do I have the time to make these Abyss videos anymore. So I do apologize for that. I won't probably continue making content in the near future. Let's see about that, I have no idea. Now, without further ado, let's jump into the video. And following the last format of this video, we should start with taking a look on enemy lineups for floor 12. Chamber 1 first half contains 3 different Eremites on 3 different waves. The Eremites here do not have any particular resistance that you should pay attention to, so just bring anyone you like. However, you need to pay attention when looking on Chamber 1 second half is that we have 5 Ruin, Guards and Graders. In particular here, they come in 5 waves and also spawn 1 each wave. With this in mind, you should avoid physical DPS and also bring boss killers. But now let's talk about Chamber 2. In Chamber 2 first half, we do have a lot of hilichurls. But I want you to pay attention on these hilichurls instead. The 6 militachurls and also 4 hydro hilichurls, rogue hilichurls. I want you to ignore these pyro normal hilichurls because they're irrelevant, and I will explain that later in the video. In Chamber 2 second half, we have the gravitational machine with 3 million HP. A boss killing unit is a very recommended part of this stage, but you also need to keep in mind that this boss has 70% geo resistance. I would recommend that you avoid geo DPSs. Now lastly, let's take a look on Chamber 3. On the first half of Chamber 3, we are met with 4 Ruin Drakes on 2 different waves. Nothing much going on here except for annoying grouping and also high physical resistance. In which case, you also need to avoid bringing a physical DPS for Chamber 3. Let's move on to the second half of Chamber 3. We have the Suwani boss. The Suwani boss has a unique mechanic that needs you to stun it with cryo. So, bring a cryo character in particular. Any cryo support or any cryo DPS should work just fine. And I will also want you to avoid bringing Hydro and Anemo DPS because this boss has a 70% resistance on both of those elements. Now that we finished looking on the lineups, let's now talk about team building. For the first half, I recommend you to bring crowd control units such as Kazuha or Sucrose because these units are able to group up enemies easily. There's a lot of enemies that can be grouped up here, for example the Eremites and the hilichurls. Not for the Rune Drakes, of course. But for the second half, you just bring any boss killer that you want. That's pretty simple, very easy. Yeah, but that's it. That's just for the teams. So let's talk about the strats and positioning and everything to beat these enemies. For the first half of Chamber 1, as I mentioned, if you have a crowd control unit such as Sucrose or Kazuha, you should be able to beat this stage quite easily. If you don't have these crowd control characters, I would recommend you to use this strategy here. A little bit about the Eremites, however, before we start, is that the Eremites have different attack intervals. As you can see right here in this slow motion, if you are close to the Eremites, the one that will attack first will be the Hydro one, followed by the Electro one, and also the Cryo one. However, if you gain some distance, the one that will attack first is the Cryo and Electro one, followed by the Hydro one. With this in mind, it means that you cannot 100% group them easily. So instead, I want you to do this. First of all, run towards this side. Now, I've heard people say, oh, just wait for them to attack. Oh, get close to them. Oh, focus on the Cryo one. Or focus on the Hydro one. No. Focus on the Electro one. And here's why. Through many testings yesterday that I did with my friends, I found that the Electro one is the most reliable way of grouping because the Cryo one, even though it has a move that can taunt you, it's RNG based, and the Hydro one also wants to move towards you. So the Electro one is really slow and really unreliable in terms of grouping. Take a look at these fronts here. As you can see here, all of them I followed the same strategy which is go to the Electro side, and then start doing my rotations there. For the Rune Guards and Rune Graders, it's self-explanatory. You just need to go kill. There isn't much positioning, grouping involved because they spawn one by one. So here, just bring your best DPS for boss killers, you should be fine. So now let's move on to the Hilichurl stage, which is the first half of Chamber 2. Now I want to point out something important for this specific stage. There are two types of Hilichurls. The first type of Hilichurls is the one that actually wants to kill you with murderous intent, and the other one are Hilichurls that need you to give them attention 24/7, just like your non-existent or imaginary girlfriend. With this in mind, the category for the first type would be the Mid-Hilichurls and also the Pyro-Hilichurls, and for the second type of Hilichurls would be these Rogue Hilichurls. Let me explain. As soon as you start the stage, you will see that the Pyro-Hilichurls and the Mid-Hilichurls will instantly run towards you. No matter where you are positioned, will try and kill you with murderous intent. This also applies with the second wave of Hilichurls, or Mid-Hilichurls in this case. They will try and get close to you and do a melee attack. But as soon as you kill these two, you will then meet the Rogue Hilichurls. A very noticeable difference is that the Rogue Hilichurl plays a weird animation of charge up, of idle animation I guess, instead of actually running and trying to kill you instantly. It's a waste of time trying to bait them to attack you, because they will also have a chance to do ranged attacks, which is these Hydra Slime attacks. So I want you to go and babysit them, go towards them, try and kill them. Now I never mentioned about the Pyro-Hilichurls. That's because this category of Hilichurls, the first category, they will instantly charge towards you. Now before you notice anything, right, your DPS would have just probably killed them already by this point. Yeah, there's no point of trying to focus on these Pyro-Hilichurls. Your DPS would have already taken care of it. So just ignore them. But what should you do then? Right, when the first stage starts, I want you to go to the left side because that's where the second wave of Mid-Hilichurls will spawn. In this way, all the Hilichurls that are spawning first will now go towards that position and will try to do a melee attack. Set up in this position and you will kill the Mid-Hilichurls before you even finish setting up. As soon as the Mid-Hilichurls die, immediately summon your burst of your DPS. This will ensure that the second wave of Mid-Hilichurls will die instantly and push onto the third wave of Hilichurls, which is the Hydra Rogue Hilichurls. Another thing to note is that the Rogue Hilichurls are very staggerable, so with this in mind, go and try and push them to this direction, because the next spawn of enemies will be in this position, and once you kill the Rogue Hilichurls, you will then meet Mid-Hilichurls. Instantly, you can also wipe it out, just like the previous strategy, by saving your burst for that one. And then you can burst down the next Rogue Hilichurl wave and finish the stage. So moving on to the second half of Chamber 2, we have the Gravitational Machine. This is not a complicated boss, I would say. It lowers gravity, so now you can plunge and also dodge attacks by jumping over the attacks. A few things to note, however. There's a few dangerous attacks that you need to pay attention, which is this attack, which slams the ground really hard. It's a really clear visual indication that it's going to do this attack, and also this other attack, which is throwing rocks at you. This attack is dangerous because, for me, it's really hard to dodge at first. However, if you time it correctly with your plunges and or your jumps, you should, in fact, dodge every single rock without a problem. So yeah, I guess that's it for the boss. Moving on to the third chamber. So for the first half of Chamber 3, we have 2 Rune Drakes and another 2 Rune Drakes on the second wave. There's not really that much to talk about. The Rune Drakes are very RNG-like, very weird, I would say. You just need to have a great luck at this point and hope that the Rune Drakes do end up being close to each other. I tried different methods here. Going here, for example, I also tried doing this, doing that. Yeah, none of them ended up as quickly as doing just, RNG farming and hoping they would get grouped up. Let's move on to the second half of Chamber 3, which is the Suwani boss. Let's talk about this boss. I really hate this boss. It requires Cryo to stun the boss. Being the only boss that is able to be frozen this also brings the question, why do you have Hydro and you have Anemo resistance on 70%? But okay, let's now talk about the strategies. When the boss first spawns, it will then first perform this attack. And then it will then do this attack. And then it will do a water charge attack. Now this water charge attack is the moment where your cryo character comes into use. Freezing the boss and then doing something to the freezing aura will stun the boss immediately, and then when it wakes up, it will try and do either of these two attacks, which if you get lucky, it will then get stunned again because you froze it and you break the frozen aura and then you stun it again. It's all RNG at this point. Now, after a bit of a waiting again, a few attacks, 2 maybe, second charged attack, which is the Anemo charge attack. To stun this boss, you just need to apply the Fek elements, which is the Pyro, Hydro, Electro, and Cryo elements to these balls, all 3 balls. Once you do break all these balls, you should be able to stun this boss. Repeat this process into the beginning again, you will get the full formula coding whatever for Swanee in Abyss. Right, sounds simple enough. I do hope that you find it really simple. If you have any questions, please do tell me in the comments so that I can explain it to you much more easily. Do not be afraid to ask. But yeah, so that brings the end to the video because there is nothing much to talk about. Have fun with your floor 12 clears, and maybe I'll see you in another video. Thank you, and have a nice day.